we dominated our division. The AFC West was ours.
Yeah.
You know, we owned it. You know, and the conference. I mean, we just had that mentality that permeated through the whole group.
Yeah.
That we were the best team in football, and we believed that, and that's how we played. And that was instilled from Al Davis and his belief. We're gonna take what we want, and that's how we play football. You know, just win was not just a saying. We believed we were supposed to win.
You have to ask yourself the question, are you happy being in the team picture, or do you want to be great?
Say it one more time for the people in the back.
You need to find those players who love football so much and care so much about each other that they'll do anything to make it happen.
Raider Nation, we are back for another episode of Talk of the Nation. I'm Sibley Scoles, and we have a special episode with these two gentlemen sitting right next to me. This is a defensive back episode. Silver and black, I know you're ready for it. We're taking it back with two Super Bowl legends here. Mike Haynes. Are we ready to talk about what we did here? 83-89, LA Raider.
Absolutely.
Super Bowl champ.
Yep.
18, Super Bowl 18. Hall of Famer in 1997, you got that title. George Atkinson, Savannah, Georgia.
That's it.
Oakland Raider from 68 to 77. Super Bowl champ, 11.
Yeah.
Two-time Pro Bowler.
Yep. Rookie of the year, don't forget that.
Don't forget that. Hey,
We had that in common.
he caught me slipping.
Exactly.
All of us are here. We're in Las Vegas. It's time to get to talking about the history, establishing that defense, how it was when you first got onto that field wearing the silver and black for both of you, obviously in different cities. George, talk to me about the identity of the Raiders and that defensive side in the 70s.
You know, when I got to the Raiders, it was 1968.
Something rather.
And they had been to the Super Bowl the year before, Super Bowl II, and lost to Green Bay. And they had started to establish the identity. And when I got there, I broke in as a punt returner. And I played behind a guy by the name of Kent McClellan. And he and Willie Brown, the great Willie Brown, who I played with for about 11 years, they were the corners, and I was the backup. Kent McClellan went down the fourth game of the season, and I started from that point on. And that's when we kind of started the identity of the Raiders. We were given a nickname of the Soul Patrol. and the way we got that nickname, it was by a DJ by the name of Bob Jones, who was on a local radio station. And actually, we were one of the first all-black secondaries in the league at that time. And we got the name Soul Patrol, and from that point on, we kind of developed a reputation.
Right. We'll say it lightly, reputation.
Reputation. And we were joined by Jack Tatum.
Yes,
who
wow.
Everyone knows as the assassin. One of the greatest free safeties, I think, in the history.
Yeah,
Should be in the Hall of Fame, I think.
absolutely.
And with he, Willie Brown, myself, and a guy we call Dr. Death, Skip Thomas.
Aren't those some names?
Oh, yeah. Everybody had a name.
Everybody
My
had a
nickname
name.
was the Hitman.
Yeah.
And Willie Brown's name was Old Man Willie.
Old man Willie.
Right. And we had a lot of fun playing together, and we
Yeah.
established the, I guess, the reputation for the Raiders in the secondary.
Did those nicknames come easy for everyone?
Yeah, they were given to us.
Yeah.
So we had no choice.
you had to accept it. Like, this
Exactly.
is what it is.
Exactly.
How were the locker rooms for you during this time, especially with what you all built and had together and those names on that roster?
You know, we had winning seasons. I mean, the Raiders had established themselves as winners.
Yes.
We dominated our division, pretty much, and
the AFC.
the AFC. Yeah,
Yeah.
I played in 7 championship games, and we had opportunities many times to get to the Super Bowl. But the locker rooms, always calm, music going, guys getting their heads right for the game. And we always played with confidence, so we had a confident locker room. There was no ifs in there. Like, ifs was not a word that we used. You know, it was how bad, and how bad we're going to beat this team. You know, when are we going to sit them down so they don't want to play? And we tried to always establish ourselves early in games. So our locker rooms were calm, like I said, and our preparation began not in the locker room on game day. Our preparations began the Tuesday coming in after the Sunday game.
It was get to work.
It was get to work. And we had a saying on our locker room: leave your egos at home.
Check it.
Check it. Check it at the door. Don't bring it in here.
Al Davis said this. They said you had to take what the defense gave you. No, we're going to take what we want.
Yeah.
You know it.
Oh, yeah.
You've heard it.
Oh, yeah. I heard it every day.
Yeah.
I heard that. And
Multiple times.
speaking of Al, I heard Al would start conversations with, just win. Just
he'd
win.
start that.
Oh, you start, he getting ready to talk to you. Just win. Just win. And in the middle of the conversation, it would get to, just win. Just win.
Out of
And
nowhere.
at the end of the conversation, it was just win. Just win. And, you know, believe it or not, those sayings, commitment to excellence, and what the phrase you just said, we take what we want, and the greatness of the Raiders is in this future. Those were buy-ins. They were not just phrases. You know, and the commitment to excellence and pride and poise was one that before every game, before we got out on the field, those were the words that came out Darryl LaMonica's mouth. He was our quarterback. Pride and poise, and just win. And that became a part of us. You know what I mean? And when you hear that regular and every day, it kind of it takes hold.
It definitely makes a difference. You know, you know, coming from the Patriots to the Raiders, I wondered what made them so great. And I realized it was their mindset. And it was only their mindset. They believed they were the best team. They believed they were going to beat you. They believed they're going to work you down. You know, and so, you know, my mindset was more like, I'm going to give it my best effort. I'm going to do the best I can. I don't want anybody to be as good as me. I want to be the best ever. Right. And so when I became a Raider and I realized, dang, they just have a different mindset. They just have a different mindset. So then I started to switch my mindset. Of course, I met some of the former players like George. He's done playing when I got there. But I realized just the way those guys thought was the most important thing. If you don't think that you're going to win that game, you're not going to win in a certain way, probably not going to win it. You know? And so that helped me actually as an athlete for the rest of my career, and actually has helped me for the rest of my life.
As a human being.
As a human being.
And those things set in, like I said. I mean, you know, the guys, like the group of guys that you played with that came behind us, the tone that we set was one that nobody's going to beat us on Sunday. You know what I mean? By the fourth quarter, we're going to make every team we play, by the fourth quarter, they will quit.
Yeah.
And that's what our mindset was.
That.
They're going to quit. How you know they're going to quit? Because we're going to make them quit.
Right. And that's what happened. I mean, like, they encouraged the other team. They tried to intimidate. I shouldn't say tried. They intimidated the other team.
We did.
They did. And that was the key. So, like, you might have come into that game thinking, oh, we're going to beat them. We're going to beat them. But even before the game started, you might have bumped into somebody and he might have pushed you.
Right.
Like, you know, like, he didn't say, I'm sorry.
No, there was none of that.
You know?
Like, get out of my way.
Yeah. You know, and so it was all about the mindset.
We had a thing in the secondary, Jack and I, we were the safeties. When I came from corner to safety, I started playing with Jack in the middle. And we had a thing that we used to say, we'll let them catch the first one.
Oh, I like that.
Make them pay the price.
Yeah.
Everything comes in here early on, let them catch the first one. Yeah. And let them know what they're in for.
Yeah.
I mean, the
And
confidence that y'all had and what you were able to bring out there on that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I mean, and you could feel it. You know, your opponent. Jack and I used to just stare at receivers, just stare at them, you know, and just to see what kind of reaction. And the first one blank is weak.
Yeah.
First one blank.
Even just from when you came in, like you said, you had missed playing with him, but what they had built with Soul Patrol, you had guys around you. Your squad was massive.
Well, he still
And-
came around.
Yeah, he was still there.
traveled with us
Well,
on-
look, he's still here today. Both y'all
Yeah.
are still here
Yeah.
today.
Yeah, but he would
talking to the
travel with
people.
us on our away games. He'd be
Yeah.
on the airplane with us.
Right.
He'd meet us at the airport. He'd be talking to us about, hey, what's your plan this week? They want to know a little bit, and then they would talk about intimidating other players.
That's how much passion and love you have for.
And the commitment,
And the-
not
yeah.
only that,
Commitment.
You have the commitment and the loyalty of the organization also.
Right.
Catered to the guys. I did communications for a long time.
Right.
Matter of fact, the Behind the Shield show, was-
So explain how that came to
that
be.
started, the Raiders didn't have a communication
Okay.
department. And Bruce Allen, myself, and a guy by the name of Billy Zager, okay? He came from New York. We started the communications department. We had one camera. We had no teleprompters.
Wow.
If we had to put something up on paper, it was on toilet paper, and they would scroll it down. That's what our teleprompter was.
Hey, it worked, right?
It worked.
It worked.
But I mean,
We are not switching to toilet paper, by the way. Keeping these cards here. Don't give anyone any ideas.
But I mean, it was fun doing that, putting that together. And it came together as a result of Bruce Allen with the blessings of Al Davis, which Al was always skeptical about things. That's not going to work. But we put it together and it worked. And here you are.
So
now.
you're
You've got
responsible
teleprompters
for,
all over the
yeah,
place.
you're responsible for Behind the Shield.
As a matter of fact, I did Raiders pre-post game and Behind the Shield for 17 years. And
Well,
we had
thank
fun.
you.
We had fun doing it.
Al Davis helped me get started. Like, I did have a career doing broadcasting, and I would do that on the radio. I do the games on the radio. And, that was thanks to Al. Probably is really thanks to guys like George in his era that opened up Al's mind to being, willing to do things like that.
Yeah. And I know, just to touch on it before we get into it, because I definitely want to hear some more about Al. Obviously, a lot of the alumni that I talked to have so many great things to say about what he did for this organization and how he had his eyes not just on who was coming here, but prior to that, he knew football, even though he never played it, and he knew guys. With who you played with and coming in the 80s, how did you maintain that same fire that was prior to you being there?
Well, one, I was very blessed to play with Lester Hayes, Mike Davis, guys that had been around. They had played with George and his era, and they just continued the progress that they had walked into themselves. And I was a little different, and I was trying to figure out what made these guys so great, and I'm going, And then I would hang out with them, and they'd say, "We're going to get together on Thursday night."
Here come that Thursday. It's Thursday again.
And we called that camaraderie night.
Okay.
And that's really where it started. And so that's when I started to understand how the Raiders were different. Then I started wondering, I wonder what other teams are like. All the teams are probably different. I wonder if all the teams are doing this, and I figured they can't be doing what we're doing.
Again, bringing you on from the Patriots, what Al did, watch what you were, doing during the draft, prior to that. What was it like to have that experience being with him? Guys, now we don't get to have that with Al, but you had that.
Yeah, well, for me, I'm sure George really had it, because when I came, I was always amazed before every game, even when I was a Patriot and we were playing the Raiders, then I was a Raider. Every single solitary game that the Raiders were playing, Al was on the field. He was out there watching the guys warm up, and he'd be coming out of the locker room. He'd out there something in his hand. I guess it was a sheet of paper or something, because my memory is he had something in his hand, and he was going, "Let's go, baby, let's go." And he would be clapping you all the way out to the field. Just win, baby, just win. I'm going, dang, this is kind of cool, guys. The owner of the team, so I was blessed. He really understood the game, and he proved it all the time, off the field, on the field, before the game. And you felt really like you could say at least me, I should say, I felt like I could say anything to him. And so he knows this week we're going up against two great receivers, a great quarterback, and he knows it's not going to be easy, it's going to be tough. And he was saying, just win, baby, just win, baby. And I really want to go over there and ask him something, but I never did, because I did not want him to think that I was weak and there was stuff that I didn't know.
Wow.
And so I had Willie Brown as my coach. So I go in and talk to Willie if I had a question.
Right.
Say, hey, Willie, what about this? What about that? And he would say, oh, Mike, and he would just don't worry about that, And so our game plan was we're going to get after people, and that quarterback that's going to be back there throwing the ball is going to be harassed. He's not going to be able to just sit there and, beat you. He's going to be running to his right or running to his left. If he was just dropping straight back, that ball was probably going to be pretty high because he's going to throw it over people.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed it.
You talk about Al Davis, a unique individual who has had every major position in pro football he's been in, from a scout with the Baltimore Colts at the time, under a coach by the name of Weeb Eubank. And I mention him because he was the first coach to win the Super Bowl in the AFL with Joe Namath, Super Bowl III. Weeb Eubank was the coach. Al Davis was a scout for him when he was at Baltimore. Then he goes from scout to coaching the receivers at San Diego under a guy by the name of Sid Gilman. Sid Gilman was the architect of the long game, as they call it. That's where Al learned the passing game from, was Sid Gilman with the San Diego Chargers. From there, he became head coach of the Raiders, okay? And his idea was to build a team that was like the Brooklyn Dodgers. That's where he came from, was Brooklyn. And the Brooklyn Dodgers were a team that were powerful and fast, and that's what Al built the Raiders as when he was head coach. Then he goes from head coach to the commissioner of the old AFL. Now think about that, scout, coach, head coach, commissioner. Then he leaves the commissioner's office and becomes part owner of the Raiders and general manager. So he made all the decisions for the Raiders at that time as a part owner and general manager. And he became owner and general manager, and the rest is history. But that was his lineage. Al was just a genius at football. And you talked about games, he was on the field. Every Wednesday and Thursday, Al was at practice.
At practice.
He was at practice. And I never will forget, I just started at corner. Kip McClune went down, and I was about my second game. And Al came up to me and says, you got to improve your movement to your left. He said, other than that, team's going to throw outs at you all the time. And he told me what I was doing wrong. I was taking 2 steps instead of 1 coming out of my backup to, get that burst. And I developed that, and I had 32 picks, and most of them were on outs. But I mean, Mike mentioned the fact that, his genius as a football person. Well, when you look at where he came from a scout.
Right, it makes sense that he would know all those little...
All of the intricacies of football he knew because he had experienced it with his journey. And it's such an impressive journey. When you look at it, there's no other person in football who can distinguish themselves and say, I started as a scout and became an owner, a commissioner, head coach, general manager. All those positions Al had.
And still was showing up on the field for the practices.
It was a one-man show in Oakland for a long time.
Yeah.
He ran the organization himself. And to negotiate with Al your contract, because during the time when I came up, you didn't need an agent. You had somebody taking 10% of your money. At that time, you didn't have nothing, you know what I mean? So you negotiated individually with Al. And it was quite an experience to
Being
negotiate.
in there just
Oh,
with,
yeah.
so it would just be you and him in that
Yeah,
room.
let me tell you a story.
Wow.
My third year, I just moved in from corner to safety, and my contract was up, and the office we had was right across from the Coliseum, and Al had a little smaller office, and I walked in, I got these numbers down, fixed in my mind, I know I'm gonna get this, right? I walked in and the lights were off, and he's watching film. And you remember Billy Thompson?
Yeah.
Safety for Denver. He was watching Billy Thompson. And as I walked in, Billy Thompson, that kid, he might be able to help us. He said, he looked at me and said, George, you know, Chicago is interested in you.
No, he didn't.
My numbers went from here. But he was fair negotiating, and the guy was phenomenal.
Oh man,
Go ahead.
quick-witted. He was on it.
Right on.
He had that whole setup.
Oh yeah,
knew.
when I walked in, he's got film going of the guy he's talking about taking my place and sending me to Chicago.
Now let's talk numbers.
Did you still ask him? Did you still ask him about some money, the salary, or
Who,
just,
me?
or
Yeah,
you
or
changed
you-
the
We
conversation?
negotiated,
Yeah.
and I got a pretty good contract. Not what I had on paper, but I got a real good contract, and I got bonuses as the season went on because I just moved inside, and he was really a fair guy. I had some unique experiences with Al when it came to contracts. I was able to make sure I was with the Raiders for a long time because I had a thing. I would go in, and it happened by accident. I would go in, and after I signed my contracts, I would borrow each year on my contract a quarter to half of my contract. Well, Al would only give it to me if I had an investment to put it in. If it was just me taking the money, it wouldn't work. So I had to put it in something. And I became a liquor store owner and a property owner.
Just goes to show the type of human being that he was.
Oh,
I'm not
unbelievable.
just, yeah, you can take your money, it's yours, but let's be smart about it.
But show me what you're putting it in.
Right.
You know, and I had to bring him something, you know, and it was always real estate. And I
Yeah.
had liquor stores there.
Yeah, that's a great story.
Mike, I'll ask you this one about Al. We would rather be feared than respected.
And I think that was pretty much the attitude that the guys had, all the guys had. And to some degree, I feel like that's what training camp was all about, to get you to understand what that's all about, feel like part of the team. Because a lot of times, you know, you see a guy come in and he's like, I ain't gonna do that. I'm not gonna hang with those guys. And then he's like an outcast. And so the only way he's gonna be able to, you know, be a guy that you walk in and say, hey man, how you doing? You know, he becomes one of you, you know. It's not him pulling guys out to be more like him. It went the other way.
You talk about, you've mentioned him, Lester Hayes, to be able to have that duo. Why did you two work so well together? What was it about that dynamic? And just describe that for me.
I think it was because of, you know, when I joined the team, he had led the league in interceptions. He was just unbelievable how many interceptions he had and the way he played and the way he studied. Like, so a lot of people, if you didn't know, you would think that he was just unbelievable cover guy. He was unbelievable at studying. Yeah. He studied like crazy, which my guess is he learned that from the other guys that preceded him. And he would tell me, like, on third down and stuff like this, yeah, on third down they like to do this and this and this and this and this. And I'm going, dang.
You already know.
I don't know all that.
Yeah,
I know a little bit, you know. I know enough, you know.
But he knew it.
He knew a lot. And so so we started studying together. And when I started studying with him, I think it helped. You know, I used to try to be, not sneaky, but I tried to be, you know, play in a position where you couldn't tell before the play what the defense was. And Lester didn't care because he was a Raider through and through, you know. And so, like, I would be up and then back and up, and I'd be moving all around, and he would just be, you know, like,
let's
come
go,
on, baby, let's bring it, you know. And I was like, dang. So then, halfway through, I became the same way because I realized everybody probably knows we're playing man-to-man, and we're playing bump and run. And so it was a little different, and I learned more about bump and run as a Raider than I ever could learn. I would love to teach other guys how to play bump and run because when I was in New England, we played, but I was kind of relaxed. I was
it wasn't
ready
the
to go.
same.
No, it wasn't the same at all. And I felt comfortable taking away part of that guy's position, and there's no way he's going to get inside. If he gets inside, he's going to not be the quarterback's throw because he's not going to be going up the field. So I enjoyed it, and I felt like finally I was playing in defenses that I enjoyed, and they were more to my personality. And I developed it because of Willie and Lester. Lester was just unbelievable. Did you get any years with Lester the first year?
I taught him.
The first year.
I taught him.
Let me tell you about bump and run. When I first got to the Raiders, that's all they played.
Yeah.
Wow.
We played 100% man-to-man. And when I got on the corner, the bump and run is a technique that is not taught anymore in pro football. And it's a basic, simple technique. Take something away, run to something. Use the sideline as your buddy. You take half the field, the big side of the field away, so you shade the receiver to the inside. And like Mike was saying, any inside moves, you dead. I'm putting hands on you. You can't get inside of me. So my idea is to force you to run either two routes, an out or an up. And you're not going to outrun me. That's out of the question. So that bump and run that you were talking about was developed during the era that I came in. The best bump and run player that we had at the time was the guy whose position I wound up playing was Kent McLuhan, believe it or not, out of Nebraska. He and Willie Brown started the bump and run.
Well, it sounds like both of y'all, it was, was meant to be. It was a full circle, right?
Yeah.
Coming through and being here in the silver and
doubt.
black. So it's nice.
And playing the same position. And,
Yeah.
understanding the position, like Mike was saying. You just don't play it. You got to understand it. You got to know technique. You got to know why you're there. And part of what we did with each other is we checked each other. And if I was doing something, I remember when I first started playing corner and playing bump and run, I used to have my head up at the receiver level. Well, the guys and Willie and those taught me, man, you got to get your eye level here.
Right here.
Belly.
In the
On
belly.
the belt
'cause
buckle.
You don't see all that. Let him move all he wants. You don't see. Wherever the stomach
because that's
goes.
the core, right?
Right.
Where
Wherever it goes, he's got to go. So if you focusing and concentrating on that, all that movement upstairs don't mean
Don't matter.
yeah, that's a waste of time.
Yeah.
He's just wasting energy trying to put you in a position that you're not gonna go for. And the techniques that Mike was talking about was developed like actually the year before I got there, and I picked it up through Willie, Kent McLuhan, who were the corners when I got there. And when I started by the fourth game, I was pretty much ready.
Yeah.
Well, you just made me think of something. Al started on the Chargers, right?
Yeah, Al
Okay,
was-
so we talking about these defensive things,
That's-
and then I was lucky the defensive back coach I had came from the Chargers to the Patriots.
There you
So I'm
go.
learning a lot of the same stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Al was a receivers coach with the Chargers, and he was a staunch believer in the deep ball.
Yeah.
If you remember.
Yeah.
And throwing the deep
Yep.
ball. Well, he picked that up from Sid Gilman, who was the head coach of the Chargers, who was considered the godfather of the long ball.
Ah.
And Sid Gilman was, he was phenomenal as a offensive guru.
Yeah.
And that's where Al got his offense from. And defense, if you know offense, you know defense. If
Right.
you know defense, you know
It's going to
offense.
go hand in hand with each
yeah,
other.
I mean, the two are synonymous. They go
Yeah.
hand in hand. And Al was just, he knew it all.
He knew what he was,
And
He
he knew what to
lived
look
it.
for.
Yeah.
It's important. It's one thing to have knowledge of something, having some experience of it, but it's another thing to actually be a part. It's a part of you. You know what I mean? It becomes a part of you.
I'm jumping right now, but I have to talk Super Bowls with you guys before you get out of these seats. Because all the little intricacies, everything that you were picking up, the movements that you did, offense, defense, everything that was out there on that field that you got to watch, and the people that were before you as well. All that led to getting these wins. Going to the big show, get in the ring, and I'll start with you because Super Bowl 11.
Yeah.
Whew,
But
that's a
think about
lucky
this.
number 11. How
Before
was it?
Super Bowl 11, I played in 7 championship games.
But that's what I'm saying. That's
7
7.
times we were right there at the door.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I played in every name game you can think of. See hands and immaculate deception, I call it. Reception. I mean, just.
But knowing that you had those prior, then finally getting that.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, we always have said that if we ever got to the Super Bowl, we're going to win it. There's no
Right.
question. Because the NFC just didn't match up with us.
Yeah,
we had
they didn't.
speed. We had size and power on both offense and defensive line. We had speed on both offense and defense. And we were notorious for knocking people out. So we had the tenacity. We had the whole package. And it was just circumstances that kept us out of the Super Bowl. You know, it was something here at the end. We had Pittsburgh on the ropes, and they beat us with 1 play. Right. We had Miami on the ropes, and they beat us with 1 play when they won their Super Bowls. And those years, I mean, we built up to Super Bowl 11, and when we got there, Minnesota, they didn't have a chance. Their chances were slim and none.
You went in there smiling,
Slim
huh?
was already out the door.
Why was that such a special moment for you in your career?
Like I said, being there so many times, you know, and that's what we come to camp for. You know, our goal is to win the whole thing. And that year we won the Super Bowl, we lost only 1 game, and that was to New England.
Wow.
Yeah. We dominated our division. The AFC West was ours.
Yeah.
You know, we owned it, you know, and the conference. I mean, like I said, championship games. 1 game before the Super Bowl, I was there 7 times, you know, and we just had that mentality that permeated through the whole group that we were the best team in football, and we believed that, and that's how we played. And that was instilled from Al Davis and his belief in.
See, from the top to the
the
bottom.
bottom.
It was
Yeah.
instilled in us from his belief and those sayings that you hear, you know. Most teams say you take what they give you. No, we're going to take what we want.
Right.
And that's how we play football. You know, just win was not just a saying. We believe we were supposed to win. You know, we believe, like I said, a year we won the Super Bowl, we lost just to New England, 1 game. I went through many seasons where we lost maybe 2-3 games a season.
But to lose just 1.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. And
Mike-
to get the ring.
Yeah, get the ring. Talk me through yours. Big game for you. Get the Super Bowl, right? 18, right? Super Bowl 18. Talk to me about that experience.
Well, you know,
Winning.
I started off that season holding out for a contract, you know, with the Patriots.
Yeah.
And the season had started, and I'm thinking, gosh, I've never missed a season, and it looks like I might miss this season. And finally, I get a phone call from Mr. Davis. He asked me, could I play for the Raiders? And I said, yes, sir, I could. And he said, okay. And that was like only thing he needed to know. And that was the end of the call. You know,
Oh,
I'm
you
like,
were done after that.
He was done. I wasn't done.
Oh, he just said thanks.
Yeah, he wanted to know, could I come? You know, would I come?
Right.
And I said yes. So that changed everything for me. And then Mr. Davis, he was treating me with respect instead of like treating me like an outcast. And so he treated me with respect, so they treated me with respect. And then I'd see guys like George, you know, who used to play, and now he's coming around, and he knows a lot about the game and a lot about the team, a lot about the history. So that opened the door for me to play my best. And then, the Raiders had a guy named Ted Watts who was, I think Ted was a first-round pick.
He was.
And so, I didn't really know if I was going to be playing in front of Ted or if I was going to come in on third down. I had really no idea what the strategy was going to be. But I watched and I helped, and so I would help Ted. And I also saw guys like George who would come around. They'd be trying to help guys that know they need a little help, So I felt really blessed to be in that environment. So we got to the playoffs. We won all the playoff games, got to the Super Bowl, and that was a dream come true for me. I'd already played 7 years.
Right.
And I actually thought that I would have played in way more Super Bowls by then.
Yeah.
And I hadn't.
But this is how it was supposed to happen.
This is the way how it's supposed to happen, and it was home for me. I was in LA, and I enjoyed it. And getting to that Super Bowl against the Washington Redskins was fun for me because I had a younger brother who played on the Washington Redskins, and I watched them a lot, and so I knew what kind of receivers they had, what kind of running backs they had, kind of quarterback they had. I felt very comfortable if we played up to our potential and they played up to their potential, we're going to win. But we got to play up to our potential. If we don't play up our potential, we're not going to win. And Joe Theismann was a very good quarterback, loved to take advantage if he saw an advantage, and Howie and those guys got after him, and it was game on. And so Lester and I had to do our job, and that was to keep the ball out of the receiver's hands, and we were able to do that, really well enough, and we became Super Bowl champions. And for me, it was like the greatest game I ever played.
You know what Al was doing to you when he didn't start you? He was checking you out.
Yeah.
And seeing what kind of hunger
Yeah.
you had for the game, and that was the kind of guy Al was. I mean,
Yeah.
he was.
That's
He knew
He
talent.
was always setting you guys up, but he knew what you could
knew-
produce.
he
He
knew-
already knew.
he
He's
would-
like, you
listen,
have it in you. I just want to
He
make
knew
sure.
he knew Mike was a starter
Right.
from day one. And that's why he went after him. Al didn't go after players
Right,
that
right,
couldn't
right.
play.
Oh,
it didn't
of course,
fit.
yeah.
It didn't fit the mold.
Yep.
And he probably another thing he probably did. He probably knew everything about you and your family.
He probably did.
Yeah.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
He probably
He
did.
probably, because he was
Yeah.
that kind of guy. He would. I've watched him talk to players, and Al was notorious for talking to players from other teams when we would play teams, and he would be on the sideline on Sundays. He would go over and talk to other players, and you'd be surprised at the number of guys that want to play for the Raiders, and Al would find out.
Oh, he started dropping
Yeah,
little
yeah,
crumbs, going in
yeah.
there, doing his
Yeah,
detective
that's why we
work.
picked up so many guys,
Yeah.
especially during the era I played and the teams I played on. You look at our roster, especially our defensive line. Otis Sistrunk, a guy that never played college football, he picked up from the Rams. John Matuzak, he picked up the teams had given up on him. Tom Keating, a guy that teams had given up on, Ike Lassiter. Wasn't drafted, a guy Al saw and saw the potential and picked him up.
Well, listen, we could talk all day long.
Oh, yeah.
And we might. I may move this to the Raiders Tavern. I don't know after this. We may go hang out, guys. George Atkinson,
Yes, ma'am.
Mike Haynes. You two are stellar, iconic legends that wore the silver and black and still do to this day. Thank you for sharing your stories. We'll see you next time on another episode of Raiders Talk of the Nation. I'm Sibley.